The arrival. The stars in the galaxy shimmered as the great council of alien leaders gathered. They sat in their massive floating fortress, far away from Earth. For centuries they had watched the galaxy, studied its races, and conquered planets. But Earth had only just begun to reach for the stars. The alien leaders could hardly take it seriously. "They are late," one of them said, his voice filled with disdain. "A primitive species, just now trying to join us. It's almost laughable." Another alien with skin like polished metal chuckled. "They've barely learned how to travel between their own planets. What could they possibly bring to the galaxy?" The council roared with laughter. The idea of Earth's arrival was ridiculous to them. They had seen countless civilizations come and go. Some had been advanced but fell to their own pride or wars. Others, like Earth, had barely left their homeworld before fading into obscurity. Earth, in their eyes, was nothing special. But just as they laughed, a flashing light caught their attention. It wasn't a star. It wasn't a comet. No, it was something else. Ships. Human ships. The message they received was simple. "We are Earth. We have arrived." The aliens were stunned. They hadn't expected this. Earth was just beginning to send ships beyond its atmosphere. Was this some kind of mistake? Maybe a fluke, some sort of space accident. They expected Earth's ships to be weak, barely able to defend themselves against the vastness of space. But when they scanned the human ships, their eyes widened in confusion. The ships were covered in strange dark red markings. It wasn't paint. No, this was something else. Blood. The ships were stained with blood. And it wasn't just a small amount. The blood was everywhere, dripping from the hulls of the ships, pooling in the corridors. This was no mistake. "They are not alone," one of the council members said, his voice lower than before. "This is not the Earth we thought we knew." But the alien leaders couldn't believe it. Could this really be Earth? Could the humans really be so powerful, so dangerous that their ships were covered in blood? The council leader, an alien with skin like a translucent flame, scoffed. "These are nothing but weaklings," he declared. "Do they think we'll be scared of a few ships covered in blood? Perhaps they've had some internal conflict, a rebellion, it doesn't matter." But the more the aliens examined the ships, the more they realized that something was terribly wrong. This wasn't a simple war. The blood on these ships was too much. Too much for one battle. The markings were not from just one skirmish. No, this was the aftermath of something far more brutal. Something that left even the mighty aliens wondering if they had made a mistake in judging the humans. Still, the alien leaders laughed. They thought the humans would never be a threat. They believed their advanced weapons and powerful ships would easily overpower Earth's primitive vessels. After all, the humans were just learning to travel the stars. How could they possibly stand against them? And so, they sent a response. "Earth," the message began. "You are late to the galaxy. You have much to learn. We, the rulers of the stars, will give you a chance to join us, but you must prove your worth. Send your leaders. Let us meet face to face." The message was sent without a hint of fear. The council felt certain that no human could possibly challenge them. After all, they had never seen a race like the humans. No one had dared to threaten them, and now this late-arriving species would have to face the might of the galaxy. But in the cold expanse of space, a dark truth was already unfolding. The humans didn't fear the aliens. They had something the galaxy didn't understand. Their bloodied ships weren't a sign of weakness, but strength. A strength born from survival, from fighting through their darkest days. The galaxy had no idea what it was about to face. The aliens, lost in their own arrogance, didn't know the storm that was coming. As they sent their message, the humans prepared for what would be the most important battle of their existence. Earth was not the weak latecomer they had assumed. The blood on their ships was a warning that the galaxy would soon learn what it truly meant to challenge Earth. And so, the first encounter began. The council still laughed. The humans were still unknown. But the blood on their ships wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. The Council of Aliens, still amused by the unexpected arrival of the humans, gathered around their giant holographic table. They had underestimated Earth for so long, but now they had no choice but to pay attention. However, they refused to believe that the bloodied ships could represent anything of true significance. After all, humans had just started their journey into the stars. What could they possibly know about space battles? As the alien leaders debated, they couldn't help but feel a sense of confusion. It was clear that the humans had been through something terrible, but the aliens couldn't figure out what it was. The ships themselves were not large, and their technology seemed primitive by galactic standards. And yet the blood on their ships could not be ignored. "Perhaps this is nothing more than a failed mission," said one alien, his voice a cold, mechanical tone. "They've sent ships into space and something went wrong. Maybe they've lost control. There's no reason to worry." But another alien, leader, an elder with a deep knowledge of galactic history, disagreed. "This doesn't add up," she said, her voice calm but serious. "No one has ever seen anything like this. A fleet of ships covered in blood. This is no accident. These humans have been through something far worse than any of us imagined. We may not understand it, but they have a purpose, and we must find out what it is." Despite her words, the other alien leaders were not convinced. They chose to ignore her warning, dismissing the humans as nothing more than a misguided race of beings who had stumbled into the stars. They were convinced that the humans were no match for their advanced forces. On Earth, however, the humans knew exactly what they were up against. Their history was not one of easy victories. It was a history shaped by struggle, loss, and survival. The blood on their ships wasn't just from one battle. It was the result of centuries of fighting. Earth had been under constant threat from alien races, some of which had sought to destroy them. But the humans had survived against all odds. They had learned to fight. They had learned to survive. It wasn't just their ships that made them powerful, it was their resolve. Earth's warriors, those who had fought the longest and hardest battles, knew that their true strength lay not in their weapons, but in their determination to never give up. They had been tested in ways that no other species had ever been forced to endure, and now, as they ventured into space, they were ready to prove that they were not just a late arrival, but a force to be reckoned with. The humans had developed their own kind of technology, one that was both brutal and effective. It was not as advanced as the technology of the alien races, but it was born from the need to survive. Their weapons were not just tools of destruction, they were symbols of their fight for survival. The blood on their ships was a testament to this, the mark of a species that had fought and bled for every inch of ground they had gained. As the humans prepared for their first encounter with the Alien Council, they didn't fear the unknown. They had faced much worse in their history. The galaxy's leaders may have laughed, but Earth's warriors were ready to show them that they had underestimated the wrong species. Back in the Council's fortress, the alien leaders continued to debate. They sent a message to Earth's fleet, ordering the humans to send their leaders for a meeting. The aliens still thought they could control the situation. They still thought they were in charge. But what they didn't know was that the humans were not coming to negotiate. They were coming to show the galaxy that Earth was no longer a weak, insignificant planet. The moment the aliens received the response from Earth, their attitudes began to shift. The message was brief, but its meaning was clear. The humans were not afraid. They would meet the aliens not as subjects, but as equals. They would not bow down to anyone. The blood on their ships was their statement. They had survived countless challenges, and they would survive this one as well. The Alien Council was shocked. This was not what they expected. Earth, the planet they had mocked, was preparing to face them head-on. And they were starting to realize that the humans might be far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. As the message from Earth arrived, the atmosphere in the Council's chamber grew tense. The aliens were no longer laughing. The galaxy's rulers knew that Earth was not like any other species they had encountered before. The blood on their ships was a warning, a message to the entire galaxy. Earth had come to stay, and it was not to be underestimated. The Council may have been slow to learn, But the humans were already moving forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The battle had already begun, and the aliens would soon learn that mocking Earth had been their greatest mistake. The day had arrived. The Alien Council had sent their call, expecting the humans to follow their command, to be humbled before their superior forces. But the humans had a different idea. They were not coming to kneel. They were coming to stand, tall, to prove their worth to the galaxy. On Earth, the humans prepared their ships for the first real test in the vastness of space. The blood on their ships was no longer a mystery to them. It was their mark of resilience. Each ship, each warrior, carried with them the weight of their history. They had fought battles against their own kind, endured the harshness of a dying world, and survived alien invasions. And now, they were going to face a force that thought itself invincible. The humans knew that they were not as powerful as the alien fleets. They didn't have the same advanced technology, the same weapons of mass destruction, but they had something far more dangerous. They had the will to survive. They had learned to fight in ways no other species had. Every moment of their history had been a battle for survival, and they had never given up. They had grown strong from the harsh lessons the universe had taught them. As their fleet moved toward the Alien Council's fortress, the humans were calm. They had been through worse. They knew what awaited them. The alien ships loomed in the distance, vast and powerful. The Council's ships were sleek and imposing, filled with advanced technology that could destroy anything in their path. But the humans did not falter. They held their course. The alien leaders watched as the human fleet approached. They had expected to see fear, to see the humans hesitate. But instead they saw determination. The ships were not large, but they moved with purpose, as if they had a plan. The aliens thought it was foolish. What could the humans possibly do against their overwhelming power? But there was something in their eyes, something they hadn't expected. It was the same look that had been on the faces of those who had faced them in battle, only to be crushed. It was the look of someone who had nothing left to lose. The first wave of humans reached the outskirts of the alien fortress. The Council's ships remained silent, watching. The humans did not speak. They did not send any messages. They simply moved closer, drawing near the heart of the alien territory. And then, suddenly, they struck. Without warning, the humans launched a series of powerful electromagnetic pulses. These pulses were not weapons of destruction, but weapons of disruption. The alien ships, with all their advanced technology, began to lose their edge. Their shields flickered and faded. Their communication systems went dark. Their weapon systems, once so reliable, were suddenly useless. It wasn't a direct attack. It was a disruption, a signal that Earth was not going to fight the way the aliens expected. The Council members were stunned. Their ships, once invincible in their minds, were now crippled by these strange pulses. The aliens scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. The humans had already closed the distance, and now it was time for them to make their next move. The humans did not waste time. They didn't need to destroy the alien ships. They simply needed to send a message. They had no desire to wipe out the entire alien fleet, but they had proven one thing: they were not weak. They were not the easy targets the aliens had assumed. The humans knew their strength lay in their ability to surprise, to adapt quickly. They could take down their enemies without firing a single shot. The Council's leaders watched as the humans made their next move. They launched a series of smaller, faster ships that surrounded the alien fleet. These ships, though not powerful, were incredibly agile, darting through space with precision. They used their speed to their advantage, hitting the alien ships in places they hadn't expected. The aliens' advanced technology could not keep up with the humans' unpredictable tactics. The Council's commanders, once so confident, now felt a growing sense of unease. The humans were not playing by the rules. They were not fighting in ways that made sense. They were using every advantage they had, exploiting the weaknesses in the alien technology. And the more the aliens tried to regain control, the more they realized that the humans were not going to give up. The blood on their ships wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a symbol of their resilience. For the first time, the council members began to doubt their previous assumptions. The humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to prove that they belonged. The alien leaders had never considered the idea that a species could fight without the overwhelming firepower they themselves had. They had never considered that humans could win by outsmarting their enemies rather than overpowering them. As the humans continued their attack, the council had no choice but to adjust. Their ships were not designed for this kind of warfare. They had never faced an opponent who fought like this, who used their brains as much as their weapons. The humans were showing them that raw power wasn't the only way to win a battle. Strategy, cunning, and sheer will could be just as powerful. The humans didn't need to win this battle completely. They only needed to prove that they were not to be ignored. And as the first encounter unfolded, it became clear to the alien council. Earth had arrived, and it was not going away anytime soon. As the battle continued, the alien fleet was beginning to realize that the humans were not as easy to defeat as they had assumed. Their ships, despite being smaller and seemingly weaker, moved with purpose and precision. The humans had a unique way of fighting, one that the aliens had never encountered before. It wasn't brute strength or overwhelming firepower that made the humans dangerous. It was their innovation, their unpredictability. The alien council had underestimated them, and now they were paying the price. In the midst of this chaos, the humans revealed something that no one had expected. A weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't a weapon of destruction, at least not in the traditional sense. It was a device that manipulated energy in a way that baffled even the most advanced alien minds. This device, hidden within the human ships, was capable of draining the energy from any vessel it came into contact with, rendering even the most powerful alien ships useless. The device wasn't a massive explosion or a destructive force that could tear apart a fleet. Instead, it slowly siphoned away the power that the alien ships relied on. The aliens had spent centuries perfecting their technology, making their ships nearly invulnerable to most attacks, but now they were helpless. Their shields flickered and dimmed. Their engines, once roaring with power, began to sputter. The energy that once flowed through their ships was now gone, replaced by the quiet hum of an unknown force. The alien leaders watched in horror as their ships began to lose power. The once imposing fleet was now reduced to a series of drifting vessels, vulnerable and weak. The humans had found a way to defeat them, not by overpowering them with sheer force, but by taking away the one thing that made their ships invincible, their energy. And the most surprising part of all was that the humans hadn't even fired a single shot. On the ground, the humans were not celebrating. They knew this was just the beginning. They had won a small victory, but they still had a long way to go. The alien fleet was far from defeated, and the humans knew they needed more than just clever tactics to win this battle. They needed to be prepared for anything. Earth's warriors had fought through many trials, but this was unlike anything they had ever faced before. The aliens were powerful, and the humans knew they had to stay one step ahead if they were to stand any chance. Back in the heart of the alien fleet, the council was in turmoil. The leaders who had once mocked the humans, who had laughed at their arrival, were now silent. They couldn't understand what had just happened. How could a species so young, so primitive, have developed such a weapon? It was a mystery, one that they couldn't explain. For the first time, the alien leaders felt vulnerable. They had believed they were untouchable, but now they were not so sure. The humans had proven that they were more than capable of taking down even the most advanced technology. In their desperation, the alien council called for reinforcements. They sent a signal to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, summoning their strongest allies, hoping to turn the tide in their favor. But the humans, ever resourceful, were already preparing for their next move. They had known that the alien council would not back down easily, and they had prepared for this. While the alien leaders scrambled to regroup, the humans took action. They began to build their own network, one that could disrupt the alien fleet even further. The humans' plan was simple yet effective. They had learned from their mistakes and had adapted quickly. Instead of relying solely on their ships, They began to set up advanced communication systems that allowed them to manipulate the aliens' own technology. They used the aliens' reliance on energy against them, creating devices that would disrupt the flow of power across the entire fleet. The alien ships, still reeling from the previous attack, were now vulnerable to a new kind of assault. While the alien council tried to regain control, the humans continued their relentless push forward. They knew that they couldn't afford to be complacent. Every moment mattered. The battle had already shifted in their favor, but they had to ensure that the aliens never had the chance to recover. For the first time, the alien leaders were beginning to question everything they thought they knew about the humans. They had always seen themselves as the dominant force in the galaxy, the ones who controlled everything. But now, they were faced with an enemy that refused to be defeated. The humans weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their place in the galaxy, and they were proving, with each passing moment, that they were a force to be reckoned with. The alien council, once confident in their superiority, now found themselves scrambling to maintain control. They had underestimated the humans, and that mistake might cost them everything. The power that they had once taken for granted was slipping through their fingers, and they didn't know how to stop it. As the battle raged on, the humans continued to move forward, taking advantage of every opportunity. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was not a weak, latecomer species. They were a force of nature driven by their will to survive, and they would stop at nothing to protect their home. The Alien Council had no idea what they were up against. They thought they could crush Earth's resistance with ease, but the humans had something they didn't understand, an unwavering determination that no one had expected. And as the humans moved closer to victory, the aliens began to realize that they were not the ones in control anymore. The human fleet had shifted from the initial surprise assault into a more calculated strategy. The aliens had been forced to retreat, their once glorious fleet now a shell of its former self. But the humans knew that this battle, though significant, was far from over. The Alien Council was not easily defeated. They would regroup, learn from their mistakes, and strike back harder, and the humans had to be ready for that. On Earth, the war leaders were already in full preparation mode. They were not content to wait for the next attack. They wanted to be proactive. They knew that the Alien Council, now aware of the humans' tactics and their unexpected abilities, would not take the next encounter lightly. The humans had to build on their advantage, improving their technology and reinforcing their tactics to ensure they stayed one step ahead. The humans' ingenuity had always been their greatest asset. They didn't have the vast resources or the advanced weapons of the alien races, but they had something else: the ability to think on their feet, to adapt to any situation, and to push the boundaries of what was possible. They had learned from their past battles and had become experts in making the most out of whatever resources they had. One of the most important developments was the creation of a new communication system that allowed them to communicate across vast distances without being detected by alien technology. This system wasn't perfect, but it gave the humans a crucial advantage. They could coordinate their fleet without the aliens knowing their every move. It allowed them to set traps, feint attacks, and outmaneuver the aliens, who were still relying on their superior technology to guide their strategy. In the heart of the Alien Council, leaders were scrambling to regain control of the situation. They had underestimated the humans once, and now they were determined not to make the same mistake again. But the more they studied the humans, the more perplexed they became. The humans were not like the other species they had encountered in the galaxy. They didn't fight with sheer power or overwhelming numbers. Instead, they relied on cunning and resourcefulness, two traits that the aliens had never valued. The Alien Council, in an effort to better understand their opponents, began sending scouts to observe the humans. They hoped to uncover weaknesses, flaws in their strategies. But they found nothing. The humans were constantly adapting, constantly learning. It seemed that no matter how much the aliens tried to understand their enemies, they were always one step behind. Meanwhile, the humans on Earth were preparing for the final confrontation. The war had taken its toll on both sides, but the humans had a singular purpose now: to ensure that they were never underestimated again. They would not be passive players in the galaxy. They had earned their place, and they would defend it. As the final battle approached, the humans gathered their forces. It wasn't just about defeating the aliens anymore. It was about sending a message to the rest of the galaxy. The humans had proven that they could survive against the odds, that they were a force that could not be ignored. And now, they were going to show the galaxy just how far they were willing to go to protect their home. The Alien Council, however, was not yet prepared to surrender. They had regrouped, calling upon the most powerful warriors from their ranks. Their fleet was growing larger, more formidable, and the humans knew that this next battle would be unlike anything they had faced before. The aliens were preparing to strike with all their might, but the humans were ready. They had learned from every encounter and they had perfected their strategies. They knew that if they were going to win, it would require more than just brute force. It would require intelligence, cunning, and the will to push forward no matter the cost. The humans knew that they could not afford to make any mistakes. This battle would determine everything. If they were successful, they would prove once and for all that Earth was not to be underestimated. If they failed, it would mean the end of their fight for survival, the end of their struggle to claim their place in the galaxy. The alien fleet moved forward, their ships now more heavily fortified, brimming with energy and weapons that could wipe out entire fleets in moments. But the humans didn't falter. They had studied the alien technology, and they knew where to strike. They had learned to read the patterns in the aliens' movements, predicting their attacks before they happened. They had developed new ways to disrupt the alien systems, to turn their own strength against them. As the final confrontation loomed closer, both sides knew that this would be a battle like no other. The fate of the galaxy seemed to rest in the balance, and the humans were ready to fight for it. They would prove that their late arrival had been worth the wait, that they had earned their place among the stars. And the Alien Council would soon learn that mocking Earth had been their biggest mistake. The final battle was upon them. Earth's warriors stood ready, their resolve stronger than ever. The alien fleet had gathered its forces, preparing to unleash everything they had in a last-ditch effort to crush the human resistance. But the humans, having spent so much time learning and adapting, were more prepared than the aliens could have ever imagined. It wasn't just about their technological advancements anymore. It was the human spirit. The drive to survive, to protect their homes, their families, and their future. They had already faced many obstacles in their short history, and each time, they had risen stronger. Now, in the face of an alien invasion, they were determined to stand their ground. As the alien fleet advanced, the humans took their positions. The strategies they had spent years developing were now in full motion. Each ship knew its role. Each pilot understood the importance of the task ahead. It wasn't just about fighting back. It was about using every ounce of knowledge, every tactic they had honed, to turn the tide in their favor. The battle began with a calm that was almost eerie. The alien ships, massive and imposing, glided forward in perfect formation. Their commanders had no reason to believe the humans could pose a serious threat. They had been successful in every campaign they had waged across the galaxy, and the humans were just another species to be conquered. But this time, the alien fleet was met with something different, something unexpected. The humans, with their smaller ships and less advanced weapons, did not engage in a direct assault. Instead, they used their agility, their speed, and their ability to work as a single unit to weave through the alien fleet. The alien commanders watched in confusion as the human ships darted between their vessels, striking where the alien fleet was weakest. The humans were no longer the newcomers, no longer the underdogs. They had learned the alien systems, studied their tactics, and were now using it all to their advantage. The first sign of real success came when the humans launched a series of precision strikes that caused a ripple effect throughout the alien fleet. Their electromagnetic devices, refined and improved over time, now hit with greater accuracy. Alien shields flickered, power systems began to falter, and once dominant ships began to drift helplessly, unable to recover. The alien fleet, once the epitome of superiority, was slowly being dismantled piece by piece. But the humans knew that they could not afford to become overconfident. They had to keep pressing forward, never allowing the aliens to regain their footing. Each strike, each move, was calculated with precision. They knew the alien fleet could adapt, could regroup, and that the real battle was far from over. Back on Earth, the people were watching, praying that the humans in space would hold their ground. This was their moment, the culmination of everything they had fought for. The hope of every human being on Earth rested on the success of their warriors in the stars. No one had ever expected that humanity would be able to defend itself against such an overwhelming force. Yet here they were, standing toe-to-toe with the alien invaders. The Alien Council, realizing that their fleet was in trouble, began to scramble. Their reinforcements were still en route, but they were too far away to make a difference in the current fight. The humans, sensing this weakness, began to shift their focus, targeting the alien command ships that coordinated the fleet's movements. If they could disable these ships, the entire alien operation would fall apart. At the heart of the alien command, panic began to set in. The humans had caught them off guard. Their tactics were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen before. For the first time, the alien commanders were starting to doubt their earlier assumptions. The humans were not to be dismissed, not to be underestimated. They were proving that they were worthy opponents, and that they could hold their own in the galaxy. As the battle wore on, the humans continued their relentless pursuit, never allowing the aliens to regain control. Every moment was a fight for survival, a test of their strength and their will. The human fleet, though outnumbered and outgunned, was still pushing forward with an unwavering determination. They fought not just for victory, but for the future of their world, for the future of humanity in the stars. And then, as the alien fleet began to retreat, the humans made one final push. They attacked with everything they had left, driving the aliens back, forcing them to abandon their plans. The Alien Council, faced with defeat, had no choice but to withdraw. Their once proud fleet had been scattered and destroyed, and their forces had been forced to retreat from Earth. The humans had won, not through sheer firepower, not through overwhelming numbers, but through their resourcefulness, their will to survive, and their ability to adapt. The Alien Council had underestimated them, had laughed at their late arrival in the galaxy. But the humans had shown them that they were more than just late arrivals. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Alien Council, humiliated and defeated, would never forget this encounter. They had learned that Earth was not a planet to be ignored, that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. The victory had been hard-earned, but it was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. On Earth, the people celebrated. The victory was not just theirs. It was a victory for all those who had ever struggled to survive, to stand against impossible odds. The humans had proven that they could stand tall, that they could fight, and that they would never back down. As the alien fleet retreated into the darkness of space, Earth's warriors knew that they had not only won the battle, they had secured their place in the galaxy. The universe would never forget the day humanity stood up and proved that they were a force to be reckoned with.